My aunt used to send us a bunch of hand-me-down NES games for Christmas. For at least 2 Christmases this occurred. I could never tell if these were just games my cousins had and just didn't like, so they gave them to us, but I really didn't care either. These were games and I enjoyed them, even the bad ones, because I didn't know any better. In one of these Christmas game lots one year came 1942. Probably the best game in the bunches that she sent, except Sid Meier's Pirates, which I love, but has never held a battery save since I've owned it. 1942 hit the American NES market in 1986, and was a port of Capcom's 1984 controversial, in Japan at least, arcade original. It was controversial in Japan because it featured an American, from the looks of it, P-38 Lightning airplane shooting down Japanese aircraft in the South Pacific Seas. In other words, it was a game made by a Japanese company that featured Japan as the enemy. I've heard it described as, imagine if an American company made a game where you play as the Viet Cong killing American soldiers. Which, from the age in gaming this game was developed, I can understand the reason it was controversial at the time. World War II wasn't really a subject gaming had explored much at this point in gaming history, if at all, and my best guess is it was not only offensive for the reasons stated, but may have even been seen as a means of making light or even profiteering off of something as tragic and serious as World War II. Today the World War II theme is old hat, but this game was made in the age of killing spaceships and aliens, so the controversy of this being based off of something from a real war in real history is understandable. 1942 has shades of Galaga and shades of Xevious, minus the bomb-dropping mechanic. Players fly over unfriendly oceans and Pacific Islands, single-handedly vanquishing what could only be described as the entirety of the Japanese Air Force. Similar to Xevious, your plane has the ability to move forward and backwards on the playfield, not being stuck at the bottom of the screen, like, say, Galaga. This is useful to move and dodge the massive amounts of enemies and oncoming fire hurled at the player. Basically, this game consists of move, shoot, move, dodge, shoot, and maybe hit the loop button, which turns the plane invincible for a few seconds, allowing players to resituate to a safer spot on the map, in those few times you'll actually remember to use it. 1942 is pretty simple. Don't die, kill everything that moves, survive till your aircraft carrier. Occasionally, power-ups will show up requiring players to destroy strings of orange enemy aircraft and collecting the POW symbol. The color of the POW symbol determines which power-up you receive, like extra shots or allied planes flying on your wings. The basic enemy types consist of the green planes, which swirl around the screen firing and dodging, and the white planes, which are the kamikaze, who try and maneuver towards you or into you. As the game progresses, both types fire a barrage of bullets at the players. As you play, the larger planes come out from behind your plane, causing you to always keep awareness of what's behind you, as well as dodging what's coming at you from the front. This game gets pretty intense and very challenging as you get further into it. The difficulty curve jumps up slowly, but the final levels in the game are rough for anyone but those overachievers who put in no-hit runs in this game. Seriously guys, you can't be human. You must be a machine, pre-programmed AI. Or, just a really good game player making the rest of us slackers look bad. 1942 is one of just 2 shoot-'em-ups I owned in childhood, and it's just straight simplistic old school fun and challenge. I forced myself to finally beat this game just for this review, as I've never just buckled down and decided to beat it. Technically, you can only lose at this game if you give up, because despite its difficulty, you are given infinite continues with which to beat this game from the start of the game, meaning any determined gamer can see it through with enough patience. The reason I never beat this game as a child has to do with my general view of the majority of Nintendo games at the time. I never believed all of them were able to be beaten. I would play them, get as far as I could, or as far as I felt like getting, shut them off, and go on about my day. I just didn't believe that the vast majority of NES games were capable of being beaten, and I was okay with that. Now that I'm older, I am convinced that the vast majority of NES games aren't capable of being beaten. By me, that is, and I'm okay with that. I had tons of fun just playing them, and trying to get as far as I could. It wasn't until the days of the mighty Sega Genesis that I actually started to believe that games could be beaten. For some reason, the fact that I have never beaten most of my NES games and never beat them as a child never bothered me and still really doesn't to this day. This game is just fun, challenging, and it doesn't overcomplicate things. The controls are spot on, the graphics, while a step down from the arcade original, are decent, far from the best the NES has to offer, but this game throws an absurd amount of enemies your way. There is slowdown that occurs, but with the sheer amount of planes on screen at one time, I would be more surprised if slowdown didn't occur. This game throws carnage your way from all directions, and the gameplay is all the better for it. The sound, however, might annoy some people. In mimicking the arcade version's slightly annoying song that had what sounded like a whistle playing throughout, the NES version substitutes with Atari-sounding beeps for the one and only song that plays endlessly throughout the entirety of the game. With a few exceptions, there are short snippets here and there of different songs. I used to think maybe it was imitating radar beeps, but with the original using a whistle sound, all I can think is maybe they used whistles to communicate on the decks of aircraft carriers in World War II? I'm not sure. Either way, you do adjust to the music and find a way to tolerate it. But I don't see it being anyone's favorite NES tune ever.
The bottom line. I still love this game. The swarming, intense action, and challenging gameplay. I did force myself to finally beat it for this review, and now
I ain't never gotta do that again. I will be perfectly satisfied doing what I've always done. Pop it into my NES, or in this case, Retro-Bit Super Retro Trio clone console I'm playing this footage on, play it until I am content, and shut it off again. But I will still pop it into a system for occasional play. With its infinite continues offered from the start, this is a game that can be beaten by anyone willing to tough it out. I find it a lot easier and more playable than, say, Sky Shark, which was the only other shoot-'em-up I owned throughout the entirety of my childhood gaming years. 1942. Classic game, simple fun.